Very good evening. It's good to be back and to see you all again. It's been a wonderful day back in Henderson, Tennessee, and I hope it's the same here. You had a good day of worship this morning. Tonight, as we go into our lesson, I'm reminded of a very, very curious story about Curious Charles. Curious Charles is the son of a father who is taunted always with questions. He has been taunted so much that one fine evening as they were walking in the park, Curious Charles asked his father, "Father, do all nuts come from trees?" And his father answered Charles saying, "Yes, son, they do." And when he said that, the very next question he asked him was, "Which tree do you get a donut from?" And he was so frustrated and angry about the question he asked, he said, "The pantry, son." He is so frustrated. So, in our lives, as we see around, as we go around the world, especially when you look at India, we find a lot of trees. We find a lot of fruits of different kinds. Tonight I want to talk to you about a special fruit today. You look in the picture, you see it's a fig fruit. Until I came to America, I never had a fig fruit. I saw a lot of them in the scriptures, but only when I came to America, I was able to see a fig fruit myself. I was visiting one of the families, and they had a fig tree in their home, and I happened to see that. So tonight, our lesson is going to come from Matthew chapter 12, verses 33 through 37. If you would turn your Bibles there, please. When we recall to the context of the lesson, we find that Jesus Christ in his ministry, as he was going through in his ministry, he is trying to visit a lot of places. As he was going through a lot of places, he was fulfilling the prophecies that he had to. And in that day, as he was going through, we see from verses 33 in chapter 12, 33 to 37, here, there's three verses we see, 33 to 35, we see that our words reveal the treasures of our heart. So how is that possible? So what is the relation about this to our lesson tonight? When we see that, if you look into the scriptures, it reads this way: "Either make the tree good and its fruit good, or make the tree bad and its fruit bad, for the tree is known by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you speak good when you are evil? For out of abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. The good person out of his good treasure brings forth good, and the evil person out of his evil treasure brings evil." Our heart, our words reveal the treasures of our heart. When we look into the context of this very lesson, we see that the same thing is being repeated in two places. In Matthew 7, 16 to 20, it is the same context where Christ is talking about the same fruit. If you read there, it says, "Our grapes gathered from thorn bushes, our figs from thistles. So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit." He is talking about how trees grow and they give out good or bad fruit. If you look further into the context, we see that Jesus Christ, as he is doing a lot of things, especially in the ministry, as he was going around trying to heal people and direct them to the path. And here we find the situation where Pharisees, and they are coming in trying to ask him with questions again. We see that as he healed a blind and a dumb man in Matthew 12, 22 to 24, the Pharisees have seen that and they are asking him questions. Now they were curious how he was able to do that. They're curious why he is able to do that. And they call him the Prince of Evil. Now they claim him that he does all this because he's the Prince of Evil. Now as they were accusing him, as they were taunting him with all that questions, he is trying to affirm his divine attributes. We see that here Christ in his ministry is talking to people who do not want to believe that he is Christ. As you look into the verses above in 22 and 24 in chapter 12, they say that they are really they're worried, is this really the Son of God? Because King David was a warrior, they were expecting a warrior to come and deliver them. They were not expecting a man so humble, so meek, and a healer to come to them as a Messiah. And here, Christ, as he was doing his ministry, again, he is trying to explain to the Pharisees, saying, you call me a good man when I healed somebody. You call me a bad man because I say I'm God. So he's saying, make the tree good and its fruit good, or the tree bad and its fruit bad. So that is the context of establishing this very parable that Christ is talking to Pharisees. We see in this context that they are calling him the Prince of Evil. They are calling him with names, and they are showing an inconsistent attitude. Looking further, we see that Christ, again, to show his divine attribute, to show his divine authority, looking into John chapter 5, verses 36 to 38, again, he is establishing his divine authority again, saying that, look at my work. Reading that, but the testimony that I have is greater than that of John, for the works that the Father has given me to accomplish, the very works that I am doing, bear witness about me that the Father has sent me. And the Father who sent me has himself bore witness about me. His voice you have heard, this form you have never seen. And you do not have his word abiding in you, for you do not believe in whom I was sent. We see the scripture tonight as Christ in his ministry is establishing his divine authority in people. He's talking to a group of people who don't even think this is Jesus Christ. They want to plot to kill him. And Jesus Christ in his ministry again, he is establishing his divine authority with this parable. Looking at again in John chapter 10 verses 36 to 38, reading from there, you see that you are blaspheming because I said I am Son of God, but if I am not doing the work of my Father, then do not believe me. But if I do them, even though you do not believe me, believe the works, that you may understand that the Father is in me and I am in my Father. He is doing great works. He has been healing a lot of people. He's been making a lot of people understand what they are supposed to do to be saved. He's affirming them He is the Messiah. And again, He is affirming them that He is the one chosen and He's the Son of God. Looking further into verses 34, we see that from Matthew 3, 7 to 9, He's again referring to Jesus Christ, the baptism, when He was about to start His ministry, when He was there with John the Baptist getting baptized. There is a situation where He is saying this. He saw many of the Pharisees and Sadducees coming to Him, His baptism. He said to them, "You brood of vipers, who warn you to flee from the wrath to come, bear fruit in keeping with repentance, and do not presume to say to yourself, 'We have Abraham our father.' For I tell you, God is able from these stones to raise up children of Abraham." Because they have been claiming they have Abraham on their side, and they are the sons of Abraham, they are acting as broods of vipers. They are not actually coming to witness His baptism, but to criticize, to see who this man is. And here in this context again, God is establishing the affirmative why He was saying that parable to the people there. Looking further, we see from Matthew 23, 23 to 24, we see that scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you tithe mint, dill, and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of law, justice and mercy, and faithfulness. This you ought to have without neglecting the others. You blind guides, staining out a gat and swallowing a camel. They have been saying you ought to follow the law. They have been giving very lighter things like cumin, dill, but have not been choosing what is really important. And here Christ is affirming again, saying your hearts are very important. It's your heart that is really required. Looking into Proverbs 4:23, keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flows the spring of life. Again, we see that Christ is saying the important thing in our lives is the heart, and from it flows the spring of life. For this lesson, I've been reading a lot of commentaries, and when I was doing that, one of the important things that I have noticed is a lot of things have been stressed about the words, about the hearts. Looking at verse 35, we see that again Jesus Christ is illustrating a fact. He's telling that from evil words proceed out of evil hearts. If you have an evil heart, and if you speak them, it's because of your evil heart that you get it. Burton Kaufman, in his commentary, writes these very words, saying that evil and unbelieving words are not merely evil within themselves, but are like the escaping bubble to the surface of the lake that betrays the rotten carcass beneath. Evil words proceed out of evil hearts. If you have an evil heart, that is when evil words come out. And here he's again referring to Pharisees, because they are evil-minded. They are evil-hearted. And here again, Jesus Christ is trying to affirm them with what He had to do. What does this mean to us? What does this all have to do with our lives today? We don't have Pharisees right now amongst us, but there are a few things that we need to consider. What about our lives as Christians? How are our lives? Are we dedicated to what we do as Christians? Are we leading a life that is required of us? Are we able to go through the path, the narrow path? Are we able to do what we ought to do? Here we see that what treasures are we spreading? Are they good or evil? What treasures are we spreading when we speak? Are those treasures good or bad? Are those treasures coming from a good heart or a rotting carcass? That which is in the body and it is spreading evil. The Bible says very clearly, our words reveal the treasures of our heart. Let us live a purposeful life with good treasures and to see Christ in those treasures that come from our heart. It is very important in our lives that we see that what treasures we have in our lives. Are they good or are they bad? As we talk about this, I'm reminded of an author. Her name is Patsy Clairmont. As once she was traveling, she comes across a young man who was very well mannered. In the flight, as he was passing by, he called her ma'am. And she thought, oh, is he calling me ma'am because I'm ancient? Or is he raised really in the South where the manners are taught really good? And here she is questioning herself. And as she is so much interested, as she's an author, she wants to know who this guy is. And then she just goes up to him and talks to him and asks, are you in service? He said, yes ma'am, I am. And she asked, which branch? He tells him, he's from the Marine. Oh, Marine, where have you been now? So he tells, I have been in the desert for a while, for 1.5 years. And now I'm returning back to home. And she said, yeah, your family should be really glad that you're going home right now. And how many times have you been thinking about home when you were in the operation? And his reply changed her idea of life, changed her purpose in life. He said, we were taught never to think of what might never happen, but fully be available right where we are. Again, I want to say that again. We were taught never to think of what might never be off, but to be fully available right where we are. We ought to question ourselves this evening. Are we able to do that? We are anticipating, we are waiting for the second coming. But why is it being delayed? It's being delayed for the very same purpose that everyone here on the earth must be reached to. And our purpose here is to spread those treasures. Spread that purposeful life to every single person that you come in contact with. And here, that is this very reason we see in this evening that let us live a purposeful, driven life. A life that Christ has led, who walked on the same surface here on earth, who lived as an example that we might walk in the same steps. I've been wondering sometimes, Christ has only gospel, He's only ministered about 3.5 years on this earth. What if He did about 20 years? What if He did about 30 years? Imagine what if He did for 50 years. Within a short period of time, He was able to spread a lot. He was able to make disciples all over the place. He preached to a lot of people, and everything by the Word. everything by His acts, everything with willing and doing the will of God. We need to question ourselves this evening. Are we having that heart? Are we able to do what Christ was able to do? Are we having that heart? The second verses for our lesson tonight are going to be from, as trees are judged by their fruits, so shall we be judged by our words. If you have good fruit in your hand, and if you are enjoying it for lunch or dinner tonight, you say, that's a good fruit. You know that very well because it tastes good and you are enjoying it. And the same thing here. If your words are good, if your words are right, you would be judged rightly. If you are spreading those treasures which are required, you will be judged rightly. Again, here, Jesus Christ is explaining the same thing. I want you to imagine what is the power of words tonight. Imagine you were beaten to death. You had nothing. You did nothing, but you were beaten to death. You would be able to survive if you were taken to the hospital and if you were given the right treatment. But as years pass on, you would forget it at one point or the other because you have to let go of it. But if someone anywhere said a small word, a word that really hurt you really bad for a lifetime, you would not be able to forget it. Every time you see somebody talk about that topic, you would remember that. You would remember those same words that are said by someone else because words hurt really bad. And as the Bible speaks of, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Again, death and life. They are in the hands of our tongue. Because what we speak, that's going to give a result. It's going to have a result. Looking into James chapter 3, 5 to 12, we read, that's a lot of thing to read tonight, but I'll explain you the gist of it. It says, though tongue is a small member of the body, it helps you do a lot of things. You could tame animals. You could do whatever you want. But again, if you are able to do whatever you want, are you using the same tongue to speak good and also to curse? He's again saying, you see, does the spring that has a mouth, does it give fresh water and also salt water from the same mouth? It does not. Does a fig tree, does it give a fig fruit as well as an olive or a mango or an apple? Does it do that? It does not. Are we giving out good and also evil from the same mouth? Looking into Corinthians, this passage is a very good passage. It says, to the end, what is due for what he has done in the body, whether good or evil, you would be judged by it. Have you ever wondered why the Bible is called the Word? At this very time, at this very place, as I speak, you are listening, and it's all by the words. There's this song that has caused a devastating thing in Hungary. It's called The Gloomy Sunday. It's a song that was written by a lyricist who wrote that song so well. He was actually talking about his fallen love. And as he sang it, and it was recorded and it was published, a lot of people have listened to it, and they knew this very person who wrote this song has listened to it and has committed suicide the next day. And like a lot of people, after listening to this song, they have committed suicide too. And it all goes back to the words that were in the lyrics. I've listened to that song. I never felt anything about it. But words make a clear objection in life. They try to change things in our lives. I want to ask you this question. If the Lord's day is tomorrow, are you going to be in heaven? Are you going to go in heaven, or are you going to hell? By your words, do you think you would be able to make an influence that you would go to heaven or hell? I want to ask us tonight, let our words be a treasure of edification, a treasure of encouragement, a treasure that can be referred to all for good. Words are really important. According to the U.S. News and World Report, on February 21, 1994, they wanted to know the reason why there's a lot of divorce happening in America. They wanted to see what is the reason between this, and they have conducted a survey. Two professors, Cliff Notaris from the Catholic University and Howard from University of Denver, they have conducted a survey among the couples in America. As they were conducting this very research, as they were looking into things around, they have been talking to a lot of couples who broke the very next hour after their wedding. So the many things, apart from the many things, they were astonished when they got the results of the survey. The survey said that out of every 100 words that were spoken, every 5 words were dominating the other person. They were deteriorating them. They were putting them down. Every 30 words of 100 were cussing words about the other person. As one of the professor, Cliff, says, they are like the cancer cells that grow because they're not nurtured in a way they are supposed to. They grow, they multiply because it's all let down. It's a lot of suppression to take. The other professor says, because these are not nurtured, these act as cancerous cells that lead to divorce in America. It's all the life and death that which holds his tongue just by the words. Just by the words. Finally, as we come to a conclusion, I'm reminded of this wonderful story about 3 trees that grew up on a mountain. These 3 trees, when they grew up on the mountain, they always dreamt, because they were on the top of a mountain. As they were on that mountain, every single day they talked about what they wanted to be when they grow up. They were talking to each other. And the first one said, when I grow up, I want to be a big treasure box. I want to hold a lot of gold. I want to have a lot of jewels in me. And I want to be a big treasure box. And the second one said, he looked at the creek that is going on, flowing, and goes to the ocean. It said, I want to be a good, mighty ship that I may carry the king of the earth. Mighty kings of the earth. And the third one said, I did not want to become anything. I want to grow as tall as possible so that when anyone tries to look at me, they see the Father in heaven and they praise Him. Years passed on. They grew very tall. One day, a woodcutter has come to those trees. He looked at the first one. With one swing of an axe, it fell down. And it said, I'm going to be a treasure box now. And it was taken. And the second woodcutter came. He cut the second tree. And it said, I'm going to hold the mighty king of the earth. And the third one, when it was cut, its heart sank because it did not want to be cut. The first woodcutter made a good box out of it, but it was used to feed animals. It was filled with, not with gold, but with sawdust. It was used to feed animals. But one day, that very night, the stars gazed upon it, and there, the mother talking to her husband, saying, that is a really pretty manger. In there was a small baby. The second woodcutter chose not to make a big ship because those days they didn't have a big ship. So it was made into a small fishing boat. And one day, it was holding a man sleeping in there. And then, as the waves really grew bigger, this man got up and he stopped the waves and the air, controlled the air. And it was holding the greatest king on heaven and earth. And for the final tree, it was put in a lumberjack. One fine Friday morning, it was cut finely. It was put against a body where it was nailed with nails, with blood. When it was being carried around, it shivered. But finally, on the Sunday morning, every single person that looked upon it on the mountain, they saw God. They praised God for it. Dear brothers and sisters, I want to remind you one thing tonight. In our walks in life, in everything that we do, in everything that we see, we have a fruit. We bear the fruit in everything that we do. If you're here, if you're trying to be a good tree to bear good fruits, you might want to be saved tonight. Or you might be thinking, I am a bad tree, or I am bearing bad fruits, and I want to change that tonight. Because Christ has given that opportunity. He has designed, our Father has designed a plan of salvation that no one has designed. No one, no man, no woman could do it. But God has designed such a very good plan so that we could be saved. If you're here and are choosing to do that this very night, we offer you the invitation. Come as we stand and sing.
I want to thank Elijah for coming and speaking to us tonight, as well as all of our young men who have led us in worship tonight. I appreciate them very much, and please encourage them every chance that you have.